Welcome everybody to Sticks and Sips, the Drew Estate Virtual Happy Hour. I am Frankie Drinks Moreno, and I'm super happy to be with you here. Episode 18. We've been with you like 4.5 months, and getting great people together to enjoy a little virtual happy hour. So I hope you're joining in. I hope you're checking in on that Facebook. Check in from where you're from. Let's give you a shout out, and we have some amazing prizes today. You go ahead, you submit your questions, hashtag Ask Frankie Drinks, and we'll get you that lovely Pappy Van Winkle travel humidor, which I lost because probably somebody took it, because they're so valuable. You know, how sexy is a travel humidor with Pappy Van Winkle? All you've got to do is ask me or any of my guests a question, hashtag Ask Frankie Drinks. If your question gets picked, we'll send you a travel humidor. So with that, so what's happening tonight? Mr. Jack, show us the menu for tonight. Well, we have an amazing cocktail made by the one and only Nick Kosevich from Bittercube and Heirloom Liqueurs. We call it the Smoked Alchemies Highball. I hope I said that right. And my other guests joining us today, what I like to call the Mixology panel, is Mr. Max Solano, Mr. Joaquin Simo, Mr. Carlos Cuarta, Mr. Rob Amato joining us in the Zoom. And the sticks that we're enjoying today, we're going to enjoy like all 5 of the Acid Loud Pack, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. But with that, I'm ready to roll. So usually this is the cocktail portion where I start making a cocktail, but tonight I am not making a cocktail. My good friend Nick Kosevich is going to make a cocktail. So we're going to check in with Nick. Nick, what's going on, brother? How are you?
How are you? I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, it's awesome to have you on, but more importantly, we got a lot of thirsty people here. So so let's get to it, man. Make a cocktail for us, please.
So we're basically doing the most simple thing you can do, make a highball. Frankie, I sent you all these liqueurs a few months back when we started talking about the cigars and cocktails. And the Alkermes is a really cool liqueur that we launched in 2018. It's actually from the 8th century, from Persia, from the Middle East, heavily dyed with cochineal and seasoned with cinnamon, rose water, and cardamom. And it made its way to Italy through the spice trade, and it's found in Italian culture and pastry. But it's an 80 proof liqueur, so you can use it like a spirit, and you don't have to do much to it other than dilute it. What we're going to do today is we're going to use what we call cocktail cedars that you can get on bittercube.com. And for you cigar fans, that might be recognizable. You know, the same reasons you don't use a lighter or a match to light a cigar, the same reasons you don't want to use those when you're making cocktails. And so the cedar is really designed as a way to be able to be able to get that smoke flavor in a cocktail without getting butane. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of the cocktail cedar, and then we're going to take a glass and we're going to just put that out like that. And then we're going to do it again. This is that moment where I panic and can't light the thing. Show me.
Don't worry. Don't
Here
worry.
we
Listen.
go. Here's another lighter. So we're going to smoke the other glass. I'm making 2 cocktails. I can't make one cocktail for a cocktail class. My wife would be very disappointed in me. So we'll take a second one like this. All right. And so while those are kind of just gently smoking, we're going to build the cocktail, and it's super, super simple. So per cocktail, it's 2 ounces of Alkermes liqueur. So I'm going to build 2 of them. And it's a really simple cocktail to batch as well. Basically, like, in the world of the flavored hard seltzers, the heirloom liqueur line kind of works in the same way. Any of our liqueurs can simply be diluted with soda water. So I'm going to do 8 ounces of soda water. So it's 2 ounces of the liqueur, 4 ounces of soda per cocktail. And then I'm also going to add root beer bitters. This is our newest addition to the brand, root beer bitters. We worked on these for over 2 years. Really, really proud of these. We're going to add a heavy, 4 dashes per cocktail. Since it's such a simple drink, I think it's nice to add a little bit of that. And then now we've got that lightly smoked glass. We're going to take a couple pieces of large format ice. And then from there, we're going to just pour in the cocktail. And then I'm going to garnish mine with a little bit of fresh mint that I got from the farmer's market this morning. I've got some flowering mint here, but you could use a piece of orange or lemon. And I'm just going to kind of rub the inside of the glass and then rest the mint kind of around those large pieces of ice. I couldn't have complicated a more simple drink more. I think that's really my strong suit is. Here's a vodka soda. Let me show you how to make it in 8 steps. But that's what I've done here as well. So this is very simple, smoked El Kermes spritz. Another thing that we've done is you can take, those little, wooden clips. You can clip some of the cedar there and light that for more of a smoky aromatic. But I think it's a really fun drink to have with cigars, especially the acid cigars that have that little bit of sweetness on them. This El Kermes spritz goes really nice with it. And you're doing the same thing right there. Love it. Cheers. Sir.
Yeah. So cheers, and cheers to everybody out there that's joining us tonight. Super happy to have you guys with us. And with that, I'm going to say cheers, but I'm going to take the lip piece off just so I don't burn myself, because I know this is a live show without a net, and I don't want to go to the hospital. But with that, cheers, guys. So this is your smoked El Kermes highball.
So the mint is really cool in there that I added, but the smokiness I think really comes through. And a lot of times the reason that we really like that cocktail cedar is that people do the smoking where they take the smoking gun and they smoke a whole cocktail, or they smoke a glass with that smoking gun, or you char the wood panel. A lot of times I feel like that's really overwhelming. And so the reason that we created the cocktail cedar was, again, inspired by cigars, but also inspired by the idea of like incorporating more of a softer, smoky touch to the drink.
Well, let me tell you, I was so excited to hear about the cocktail cedars. These things, when you told me about them, I thought that was such a fantastic idea. And knowing that you are a guy that loves cigars, it's awesome to have you. So now we're going to go back to our regular programming now that everyone has a cocktail with them. And usually we do a check-in through the Zoom. So I'm going to go do that now. So I'm going to go around the horn here. I got Joaquin Simo checking in. Hello, Joaquin. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. I couldn't be happier to have you on. And tonight I've got some of the one of the most amazing mix of mixologists, excuse the pun, with me today. So Joaquin, we'll talk a little bit more in depth in a little bit. But next up, I got Max Solano from Las Vegas. And this guy does a little bit of everything from mixology to spirits judge. And Max, it's awesome to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And you left out that mostly what I do is drinking. So that's me. That's my main composition. And
cheers to that.
Yeah,
you've got a tough job. So we'll chat about that in a minute. So I'm sure you're sipping something amazing. Next up, my man Joey. Joey, what's happening,
up, man?
Brother?
I'm just kicking back, just sipping on my mezcal and smoking a stick and just waiting to get into it, just chilling.
All right. Well, it's awesome to have you back. By the way, this highball with our Kermes is quite amazing. Rob Amato, another Vegas check-in. What's happening, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Just trying to avoid this heat out here.
It's hot in Vegas? When did that start?
Nah. Is that what makes your hat go sideways?
Absolutely.
It's a sweat. It just falls off.
Sideways.
But it's awesome to have you. And now we're going to go back to our first guest. Now he's got a chance to settle down. Nick, I didn't get a chance to get that fresh mint from my local farmer's market. Yeah. So I'm a little bit envious.
That in. I'm sorry. I was like, by the way.
There you go. Today. So I love that. So Nick, I want you to tell us a story about Bittercube and heirloom liqueurs, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so Bittercube's been around for the last 10 years. Myself and my business partner Ira Koplowitz started this company. We have been making bitters You know, the old-fashioned way, no oils, no extracts, 100% natural. You know, roots, barks, fruits, flowers, spices, and herbs. And today we've got an apothecary in Milwaukee that produces, you know, up to 1,000 gallons of bitters every month. We have 9 flavors that we produce all year round. And we started with these 6 original. You can buy them on bittercube.com. And then we launched the other 3, variously throughout the last decade. The most recent one, like I said, was the root beer bitters that we used tonight, which I'm really excited about. I have a rule that I just have to use them every time I do an online anything right now, is talk about the root beer bitters. But the Trinity and the root beer and the Chipotle cacao come in a new variety pack as well. And in addition to that, Bittercube's done a lot of consulting in the country. We've opened over 40 bars. We've trained over 500 bartenders in the last decade. And then in 2018, we opened our own apothecary, cocktail bar, and liquor store or cocktail store, as well as we launched Heirloom Liqueurs. And so right now, Heirloom has 4 SKUs. We have the Alkermes that you guys just tried, Pineapple Amaro, Genepi, an American Genepi, and Creme de Flora. And then we are about to release a espresso martini liqueur as well. Will be the 5th SKU in the Heirloom Liqueur line. And it's been a lot of fun. You know, we're basically doing what we did with bitters with liqueurs, which is selling pretty obscure, weird things, and we're really excited about it.
Well, that's an amazing, it's an amazing story. So I'll tell you what, can you give us a quick rundown? You know, you talked about root beer, the Trinity, and the Chipotle cacao, but I know you've got 6 in that core, which are truly amazing. And if you could just give us a couple of words on each of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we can start with the Cherry Bark Vanilla. The Cherry Bark Vanilla is probably the flagship of the company. We produce about 250 gallons of that every month. It's wild cherry bark, vanilla from Madagascar, fennel pollen. But the vanilla, I guess, kind of comes globally now these days. It's a whiskey-based bitter, so we take 130 proof white whiskey, age it in-house with medium charred American oak, and then we macerate that together. So it's a really delicious, whiskey cocktail bitter, but also works great with gin cocktails. Like for me, the Cherry Bark Vanilla is best in a Tom Collins. I think it makes the best Tom Collins. We make an orange bitter like everybody does, but we're really proud of ours. Hand-peeled Valencia and navel oranges with toasted caraway, cardamom, and coriander, finished with burnt sugar that we do in-house. They're really honest orange bitters, natural. They really taste like real orange. The Boulevard bitters, Simon Bolivar had a German doctor in his army who invented Angostura bitters. Our Boulevard bitters are an homage to the original Angostura recipe. We're a lot of quassia bark, focused on dried fruits, and cassia, very bitter and floral, chamomile and jasmine. And then those 3 get blended together to make Trinity. Then we've got the 2 Jamaican bitters. Jamaican number 1 is allspice, clove, black pepper, really bright, really great with ginger drinks, Moscow mules, things like that. Jamaican number 2 is grapefruit, allspice, vanilla, hibiscus, very much kind of like a tiki style bitter. Then we have the Black Strap, which is another whiskey-based bitter with molasses and 3 types of cinnamon. And then we have Chipotle cacao, which is 6 different dried peppers, coffee, and chocolate. I did it. That was all of them in 3 minutes.
That's fantastic, man. I'm truly impressed. I will say this, Nick. We were talking highballs at an earlier episode, and I made a highball inspired by Joaquin Simo, which was, why sell White Claw when you can make your own? So, we did it was a make your own White Claw episode, and I called it the Not a Claw at All. So special thanks to Joaquin for the inspiration. And what we did was just a little vodka, a little club soda, hit it with we did half an ounce of sugar, because everybody's watching their weight these days, trying to stay, slim and trimmed in COVID. And we definitely hit it with
he's got a customer at the bodega.
Oh my God, this is insane. Wow. This is a live show. This is a live show. So
Somebody was
So
trying to get an egg sandwich. It's fine.
yeah, exactly. So so welcome to the bodega. You know, so this is I got a customer. I got to do a press sandwich and a lotto ticket. So with that being said, so yeah, so that was our not a claw at all. You know, we are flying without a net. So so just wanted to let you guys know, you know, what was going on, and and it's just it's and the phone's blown up. By the way, it's like, you know. So anyway, I try, guys. I try, and we're making it happen, guys. Don't worry, don't worry. I'll make it through this, Nick. I promise. So Nick, we talked about Alkermes. Let's talk about the other liqueurs that you got. Let's start with Creme de Flora, because I've got that right next, and I love that. That thing is amazing.
Yeah, so Creme de Flora is inspired by a 400-year-old Italian liqueur called Mille Fiori, meaning 1,000 flowers. We're using 6 different dried flowers plus orris root, macerated very quickly to kind of create like a floral bouquet style liqueur. Next up is Genepi, so an American Genepi, really focused around the American sunflower, but very much so inspired by the Alps. It smells like green chartreuse, tastes like yellow chartreuse, and is inherently, you know, unique and different than those. And then the pineapple amaro is really cool. You know, it's kind of a connection of Italy, Puerto Rico, and Wisconsin. So it's inspired by Italian amari, utilizing Caribbean botanicals, and it's bittered with ginseng from Wisconsin. More ginseng is grown in central Wisconsin than anywhere else in the U.S., outside of Canada, anywhere else in North America. A lot of it's sold back to China and then sold back to us as Chinese ginseng. But if you go to Chinatown, you'll see any Chinatown like market, you'll see it sometimes in like a Wisconsin flag on the box saying that the ginseng was actually grown in central Wisconsin. And so we've cut all that shipping out and we go directly to the source. But it's really cool. The third partner of Heirloom, his family's from Puerto Rico, and he was connecting when he was learning about cocktails with us. He was connecting the idea of amari and bitters and the apothecary medicinal side of the business with his grandma's medicine cabinet, and the fact that there was this kind of homeopathic nature that he grew up with. And so he kind of connected those two worlds together to create pineapple amaro, which you know, I'm proud of the fact that these liqueurs, there's nothing like them on the market, and I'd rather spend my life selling stuff like that than, you know, I'm trying to tell you that my vodka is distilled 72 times. So not everybody's going to the liquor store saying, honey, don't forget the pineapple amaro during the pandemic. I get it, but we're really proud of it. And what's cool about these liqueurs is that they're kind of all done. They're like bottled cocktails in a way. Like take your favorite LaCroix, like Alkermes with coconut LaCroix, pineapple amaro with lime LaCroix. You basically can do these really cool drinks just by diluting these with flavored seltzer, which is already super popular right now.
Well, listen, we don't want to take anything away from White Claw. You know, we don't want to get sued, but, you know, if we're going to get sued, let's get sued with Heirloom liqueurs and LaCroix. So so let's do this, guys. You know, I know everybody that's out there watching wants something, a new spin. And let me tell you this. So I'm going to give a quick story. I want to say it was a couple years back at nightclub and bar. You know, we reconnect. You know, we meet. So at this time, I think because we're in August and we kind of missed that opportunity. But Tales of the Cocktail is the biggest gathering of the spirits industry, and it's those few moments where people like Nick and Joaquin and Carlos and Rob and Max and everyone else in the industry is kind of in this one city together. And obviously this year, not happening. So I'm hopeful for next year. But, you know, it's one of the greatest moments where we can, you know, give each other a hug and say hello for a few minutes. But it's incredibly brief. It actually is an incredibly brief moment. So I'm actually glad that we're together here and sharing some quality time together, and that we can sip a little something. So a little toast to Tales of the Cocktail, and for us getting together in the future. Cheers to that. So
hugs. Let hugs come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Hugs need to come back. But I ran into Nick, and we were at the I want to say bar and nightclub, and you know, we reconnected because you know we hadn't seen each other since Tales, And I remember we had just launched Acid Croqueta and the Acid Plush line. So I handed them, said, Nick, this is, I don't know if you like this stuff, but here you go, man, because this is right up your alley. These are the flavors that you're working with, and these are the flavor profiles that we're working with in tobacco, and I hope you like them. So I'm glad that ever since then, you're finally on with me, and we can kind of enjoy everything you're doing with the bitters, everything you're doing with the liqueurs, and all the concept of all those different flavors coming in together. And we know that our acid is like a. You said it best. Nick sent me a text. He goes, "Listen, man, smoking a Cuba Cuba is like smoking a smoked old fashioned, and it's like you get all the flavors, the sweetness, a little bit of the bitterness, a few part of that infusion, and that premium tobacco coming through, and you get that experience, and it's like smoking a cocktail." And Nick, I'm gonna steal that. Joey, taking notes.
I
Like
also
smoking a cocktail.
With the, you sent me a bunch of cigars, so I've been kind of geeking out about writing notes about the cigars and then thinking about flavor pairings. And I think that, the sweeter cigars actually can allow for like a more like citrusy cocktail. I think a lot of times when we think about smoking cigars, we think like Manhattans, old fashioned spirits, just drinking scotch on its own, rum on its own. But those sugar tipped cigars, I almost prefer like something acidic, like a daiquiri with them, because it actually balances out the sweetness from the cigar, acidity from the drink. It actually kind of changes the flavor profile, which I thought was kind of interesting with the Alkermes. The Alkermes is such a complex liquid, but that sweetness from the cigar kind of changes the flavor profile a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's just an unexplored and a ready to be explored opportunity, for us to expand our palates and expand the experience. So last but not least, I know you started with it, but I really do want to talk about the cocktail cedars, because I think this is really cool. So, just go back and tell us, what brought you here, man?
So Ira really was the leader of this idea. I don't know where he met this guy or how he got in contact with it, but we've smoked cigars off and on, since we started the business, and we've geeked out about them together from time to time. And that, I think one thing that's always been memorable for me is like going to a cigar shop and you've got like even the cigars you sent, Frank, they come with like the very loose cedar. You crack it open and you light it, and like that experience, right? And we've always talked about if you cut an orange disc and you take a lighter and you take an orange disc and you squeeze that orange disc over the lighter on top of a cocktail, so you light the citrus oil. The force of that oil is literally pulling butane onto your drink. I've seen it, I've tasted it, I've experienced it. You can see it on top of the cocktail. You can see like the slickness of the oil. That's not just the orange oil, it's butane literally on the drink. The same happens with sulfur. You light a match, you push that oil, the force of that oil is grabbing the contaminants of that match and they're putting it on your drink. And so we looked at like, that's the same reason you don't light a cigar with butane. And it kind of makes sense for Manhattans and drinks that you're going to do this flamed citrus oil. And then, so we wanted them for that to start. We wanted to have this cocktail cedar so that you were lighting the cedar and then smoking your oil or citrus, lighting your citrus. But then we were like, well, how many other ways can you use this thing? Like we're trying to sell people sticks. So how are we going to, what are the uses of the stick? And that's when it started to get to like the idea of like smoking the glass. Those smoking guns are like $100 or more. It's a cool show, but I generally think that type of smoking overdoes that thing that should be an accent to a cocktail. And so it's another reason that these cedar sticks are really cool, is the cocktail cedar allows you to use it in a very gentle way. And then you can even save all your burnt ends and infuse small bits of like liqueurs. So like I'll save all my burnt ends and then throw them in like 5 ounces of Argentipede and then I'll have like a cedar, like a charred cedar infused Genepi. And if you're in a pinch, you know, you can light a cigar with them as well. But the idea is that they're really versatile and really fun to have. I think they're a really fun, you know, showpiece. You know, obviously it's a showpiece, but even at home, I think it's a cool thing to use for lightly smoking cocktails. And you can use them for other things as well, culinary wise.
Well, that's let me tell you, so excited because you know this bridges both of our worlds. So I was so excited that you guys came up with this, and when we chatted, I was like, dude, I'm so excited to present this because it is unique, and you are absolutely right. Introducing smoke is one of those things that either gets overdone or not enough. So thank you for providing like an incredibly clean and wonderful way of introducing smoke to that. So you know, me.
It's like a real, you know what it is? It's like a ritualistic thing. And same thing with lighting a cigar with a cedar spill. It slows you down.
Yeah, and
a little bit.
And you can see, you know, like
and
when
that's the whole drink, point. You know,
it's like when
you
you
want to
build the drink before you even start to build the cocktail. You go like this: you light the cedar just like you would a cigar. You kind of give it that moment, and again, we're humans; we're attracted to flame. So in front of guests in a dark bar, that's super cool. And then you take the glass and you go like that, and it kind of lets out its own. And then you're building the drink, and it's slowly just gathering enough smoke that when you let it go, you can almost see it kind of just
rolling in there.
fill it out. Yeah. So it is.
It's nice.
It's like adding to the ritual of the drink making, which I love that connection.
Yeah, it's great because again, that's slowing it down. I think a lot of in the cigar world, guys are just so used to like grabbing their cigar, grabbing their butane torch, and just blasting the ever living hell out of the foot of the cigar. And really, you got to slow it down. You want to be gentle with it. It's a moment to smoke a cigar is to enjoy a cigar in the moment that you're in with it. I think that's where something like where the cedar spills and stuff really come into play. And again, it's that romantic slowing things down, which really hits you.
It took a year and a half to get our staff to stop calling them cedar spills and to start using the term cocktail cedar.
I'm sorry.
But that made all the difference, right? Like for us, we were like, no, it's not a cedar spill. It's a cocktail cedar. And you know, the really cool thing is that the company that we get them from, like you can get them logoed, like ours say Bittercube on them. Like there are other clients that we have that, you know, will order them with their own logo on them, and that kind of adds to that. You know, again, it's the details. You know, the cocktail bars pre-pandemic were really focused on the details. Now we're talking about how we can get growlers of mule in my body.
Well, thank you for that wonderful transition into our modern world. But I do want to listen. Yeah, your work here is done, man. You listen. You ran through all the bitters and all the heirloom liqueurs in probably the fastest time that I've ever seen anyone. I would hope nothing less. And that would be amiss not to mention Ira and how much I love you and Ira for what you guys have brought to the cocktail world. And you know, like I said, man, can't wait to give you guys a hug once again.
Well, have fun with Joaquin and the rest of the crew, and I really appreciate you having me on tonight.
Always a pleasure, man. Always welcome back. So I'm going to move on to the next sector. You know, Nick may have to leave us at some point, but right now I want to jump into my man Joaquin, who's patiently waiting. Over and he's vacationing right now, but he's taking some time out tonight on a Wednesday to join us at Sticks and Sips. I said it correctly, Joey, Sticks and Sips. And, Joaquin, man, just listen, give us a little bit of background on you, just for everyone to get to meet you. I mean, I'm going to give you the formal introduction. This is the founder of Pouring Ribbons in New York City, one of the most acclaimed craft cocktail bars. And in 2013, he was the Tales of the Cocktail American Bartender of the Year. He's an amazing young man, and done amazing things, and very well respected in the industry, and probably one of the most amazing palates. And by far, I don't care about that rabbit joint in New York. You guys have always had the most amazing menus. So, Waco, welcome to Sticks and Sips, brother.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I grew up. I was born in Ecuador, but I grew up in Miami, and that's where I first met Frank. He was my AP Government Economics teacher in 12th grade at G. Holmes Braddock Senior High School, class of '96. Represent.
Yeah, you had to get that one out. I understand that it's required.
In case Alex or Frank or Marbette are listening. I hated growing up in Miami. It was just not my speed of a city. So I immediately fled to the Northeast and went to Boston U, where I studied English and religion. I graduated with top marks, and because I had a degree in English and religion, I immediately began working in bars. So I learned how to in Boston, and I learned how to make drinks when I moved to New York a few years later. But it was in Boston, working in clubs and rock and roll bars and neighborhood pubs and stuff like that, that I really kind of learned what bartending was about. And then I wanted to kind of expand a little bit more into different parts, and that brought me to New York. And within a couple years of being in New York, I was fortunate enough to answer the right Craigslist ad and make friends with everyone at the interview. And that landed me on the opening bar staff at Death & Co., an incredible bar that went on to do a lot of great things. And that gave me a really great stage. And fortunately, I did not screw that up too badly. And my 5.5 years there ended up being remarkable for me. And that was really the place where I think that was my grad school when it came to spirits knowledge, when it came to drink making, when it came to history, when it came to tasting, all of that went in there. But, going back, my dad was a chef, pastry chef in Paris for a little while he was studying ceramics. I have family on my mother's side who had studied at the Cordon Bleu. I grew up around great food. And in Miami, especially where it's the year-round growing season, everything is always coming into season. So like that mentality was there in me from being a little kid. And so as I became an adult and started working in bars, it was really easy to start thinking about those things. And coming from Ecuador, which is like a postage stamp-sized country, but one of the most biodiverse places in the world, the stuff you're exposed to there is so extraordinary. And I was able to draw from all of that, along with South Florida, which is just like all that Caribbean influence, as well as Central and South America. I mean, I kind of walked in with a good background in these things, and that's why I do what I do now.
Well, I mean, having known you for many years, your palate is exceptional. Your knowledge as a student has always been exceptional. And I know you've brought that into the spirits world. And, when we're talking about the importance of bitters and the importance of the diversity of flavors, particularly when it comes to pairing, the concept of pairing, whether it's food, whether it's, an amuse-bouche, whether it is a cigar, what's going through your head when you're going through that?
I think the most fundamental basic pairing that always exists that people forget about is time and place. Because there is a time and place that is appropriate for certain things. And then the specific thing that you're doing with it will also influence the taste of your guests or of your own, what you have available. Those things will change. But I think like there is a certain thing, like it's okay to have a drink at noon. It just has to be the right drink at noon, right? Like you don't want to have the same drink at noon that you would have at midnight. That would be weird. So I think a lot of it is understanding those things and like figuring out what's appropriate at a given time. And that helps kind of dictate. The first time I did a cocktail pairing dinner, I was doing it with Danny and Alicia Meckelberg, who ran New York Bike Club at the time. And I think I did 7 full-size cocktails to go with each course of food. And there was like 2 people out of the dinner guests who finished all of them. They were legless. I mean, they literally were just staggering out. There's no way they remembered like the second half of that meal. And, afterwards we're debriefing. I was like, I can't do full-size drinks, or we have to figure out ways to like maybe have one pairing last for 2 rounds or whatever it is. But like, there's this notion of like, oh, well, we have to do this super specific thing. Sometimes you gotta like either dial down your portion sizes or pare down your intensity and really let those things do it. Because I think it was Dave Wondrich who said, what makes a great cocktail doesn't make a great bowl of punch, right? You can get really aggressive with your flavors when you're serving 5 ounces of a liquid to someone, and it's gonna take, 10, 15 minutes for them to drink it. But if you have to sit there and drink a bowl of it all night, those flavors have to be a bit mellower, and they can't be as aggressive because you're going to get palate fatigue after a while of this super busy, super boozy drink. You need something that's a little lighter and mellower. So I think people sometimes go, they're trying too hard or they're trying to do too much with it. And sometimes a pairing is actually when you kind of lay off it a bit, actually allows all those subtleties and nuances of both the pairing as well as what it's being paired with to shine through in a way. You don't want to overstep.
That's phenomenal. And like, I'm just going to mention like one last thing. So it's noon, you're in a rush, and you're going through the drive-through at McDonald's, and you just ordered a quarter pounder with cheese. What's the pairing?
The pairing would be a riff on the Garibaldi that Dante here in New York does so well. You would grab because you're in the same like mini mart, right? So you would have gotten a little thing of Tropicana orange juice or something. You would have like poured out a third of it and just shaken the crap out of it while you're waiting in the drive-through to get it really frothy. And then from your glove compartment, you pull out a little mini of Campari and you pour that right in there. And then you have a lovely Garibaldi of Campari and fluffy OJ to wash down your drive-through. It's like just a little sweet, just a little tart, super low ABV, just enough acidity to cut through the fat. That's the way to do it. I love it.
I love it. For everyone that's got the the emergency Campari glove compartment, supply. So Joey, make sure that your Campari supply. Shout out to my boy David Torres out there, who's probably got his Aperol supply in the glove compartment because that's the way he rolls. But it's all good.
Lightweight.
So Joaco, thanks, brother. I mean, don't tune out, man, because we're gonna go back to the panel. But I need to go over to Max, man. Max, how you doing, sir?
Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there, but excited to be here.
Dude, I'm super excited that you're here. It's been a while since we've been able to hang, so this is like the next best thing. And so, Max, tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do.
And you said we had 3 hours on this segment. Is that
right? Yeah. Try to condense it into 45 seconds.
Come on.
I got Carlos coming up after you. I mean, that guy takes up a half hour just to introduce himself.
Yeah, and they give me 1 minute. I get 1 minute from Mescal. That's all.
You get 1 minute. That's it. That's not changing. So welcome, Max.
Thanks. So to follow up on Joaquin, I do have a Latino background. My entire family is from Costa Rica, via southern part of Spain. So for me, being introduced to eclectic flavors has always been something that I've been around, and so it's always intrigued me. So this is actually my 27th year in the industry. I'm really 63, but drinking all that whiskey makes me look like I'm 40, right? So
alcohol is a preservative.
So I started bartending at the age of 17 in Massachusetts. The legal age was 18, but they kind of gave me a break. Mind you, this was early 1990s when all we had around for reference books was Paul Packold's Spirits Guide and Mr. Boston's drink book, and of course half the stuff in there was wrong at the time anyways. But just to go show how long or how far this industry has come in such a short period of time, in a matter of 20 years, and obviously with the usage of the internet and it's just really helped procure things a lot more and more quickly. I always rag on the new guys, and I always say, you guys don't know how good you have it, because when we were in the business, there wasn't anything around. I remember early 2000s, good luck finding orange bitters. Like, are you kidding me? Orange bitters in the early 2000s was nowhere to be found. So anyways, I recently worked for Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. I'm on my fifth year. I'm one of the mixologists, but I'm also the head of whiskey education and also do a lot of aged spirits education as well. Prior to that, I was with Chef Emeril Lagasse. I was his mixologist for almost a full decade. And so again, had a lot of wiggle room and playtime as far as experimenting with pairings. And I've learned a lot during that period, which obviously I brought to Southern and obviously what I have now. But um, we're talking about pairings this evening, and I think one of the most underplayed things, we always think about flavor combinations and contrasts when we're doing pairings. I found over the years that almost as important as flavors is temperature and texture as well. So those things I've also integrated in tastings. In the last few years, we've kind of done a deconstructed pairing where if I'm collaborating with the chef, for example, I will say, you know what, let me provide you with the flavor notes or the flavor profiles of what we're going to be working with, and then create the dishes around that. Because how many times have we received a menu and they're like, okay, pair up a spirit with this, and it's you have a day to do it, you have maybe 48 hours to do it, and sometimes you do it to the best of your ability, but it doesn't come out like it's supposed to. And same thing with cocktails as well, which you have a little more flexibility because you can actually integrate the ingredients into the cocktail to better pair with the dish itself. But when you're talking about spirits pairings, it makes it a little more difficult when you already have the food menu already at predisposition, and good luck with that. But anyways, so that's where I'm at. I'm also a spirits judge at San Francisco World Spirits Competition, which this year was my first year as a captain, which I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm also a spirits judge at the International Whiskey Competition. So, in other words, I drink a lot.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Max. If you don't mind sharing with everyone, and we're not sharing your address on the internet, are we, Jack? Okay, so feel free to, how many bottles of whiskey do you currently have going? Now, mind you, Carlos has got a lot of gear, but I believe you've got a good selection of whiskeys.
Just in the office that I'm in right now, 700, and I really haven't had it recently valued, but I would say it's probably close to $200,000 worth of brown spirits. I got a lot of oldies, a lot of dusties for sure.
That's lovely, Jack. We don't have his address, do we? Okay, just checking.
I'm moving this weekend, so
good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Yeah, we'll be over to help you shortly. Max,
I can't wait to go to the garage. There'll be a nice garage sale, right?
We'll crack the bottles open, guys. I'm happy to always share.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Max has an incredible knowledge of whiskeys, and it's always great because every time I'm in front of him, I'm learning something about some eclectic stuff, and he's just sipping on something that's like 100 years old. So
I moved on, but I still have it right here. If you want me to show
yeah, go ahead, show it to everybody. So Echo Spring, 1916, right?
Yep.
Is that the bottle date or is that the
no?
date?
So it was the distillation date, and it was bottled during Prohibition in 1923 under the American Medicinal Spirits Company, but it was distilled by the Dowling brothers in Kentucky. But now the brand, through different ownerships, is owned by Heaven Hill.
Gotcha. So only 97 years old. So that's I'm sure you've let it rest, and that's awesome. But I know you're a cigar guy, man. So share with everybody like what your favorite Drew Estate stick is.
So I mean, where do I start? And how much time do we have again?
If you have one, this is not
I'm a Liga guy all the way.
Liga whore.
Yes. But since tonight we're talking about the acid line. What?
Say it. I'm a Liga whore.
I'm a Liga whore. What?
All right, there you go.
I smoked 2 last night, so stop it. But I've always been a huge fan of the acid liquid. Back in the day when it was available, the Lars Tetons, and couldn't find them anymore. Obviously, they were discontinued, and came across the acid liquid, and I'll tell you what, I was hooked. I was really, really hooked. Still am. So with the sampler you sent us, if we want to go through pairings, um, I had a chance to actually smoke all of these, not in the last day, but I've had them in the past. But a lot of things have crossed my mind that I played around with in terms of pairing up with these cigars as well. So, but Liga, to answer your question, but the liquid all the way if I'm doing
So
something from the acid line.
listen, I think that the cocktail that Nick made for us would be a great pairing for the liquid. But what are your thoughts? What would you pair with the liquid?
So with
And,
the
and, and
liquid,
just so everybody, it's kind of not to give everybody tasting notes because everybody's palate's a little bit different. But we got something that's it's a 5x50 robusto. It's what we call a red infusion. So it's bold. It doesn't have that overwhelming sweetness, but it has that beautiful Connecticut shade wrapper, and it has a little bit of spicy notes to it. So it's a well-rounded premium tobacco cigar.
so two things that I would probably recommend, and one of the things that's most downplayed with cigar pairings is sparkling wine, specifically champagne or prosecco or cava. Huge fan of sparkling wine and cigars. But when you have aromatic cigars like you have in the acid line, it gives you some basis in which you could have fun with. So if we're talking Rome, I would say it would be more adequate to pair a Bianco vermouth, a champagne, just because it has a lot of the floral notes. So from the Rome, I get cherry blossom, I get like those dried violet petals, frankincense, and so definitely a lot of florality. With the liquid, it's different. I love liquid because it's so fragrant, so intense. So with the liquid, I get myrrh, I get frankincense, licorice, clove, a little bit of florality as well. So I might be inclined to have a nice chilled sweet vermouth to go with it. Nothing too sweet, but definitely something that is also aromatic, that also has these beautiful aromatics and wormwood as well, that semi-sweet and dry notes. I would say like all day long with liquid. So something like maybe Cinzano 1757, a Punta Mez as well, which has some nice earthiness. We
Ooh,
can go all day long in terms of
love
pairings,
it.
but just over a big cube of ice, and I would be a happy camper all day long, or just straight up in just making sure that it's chill though. But I think with these, you want to go low ABV. You have to, because anything that's higher ABV, if we're talking about whiskey, if we're talking about cognac, tequila in itself, a lot of them can, based on the higher ABV, overwhelm these types of cigars, which are definitely more or less lighter bodied. And so you don't want to lose out on all the beautiful flavor notes and aromatics that you get from the acid line because you're pairing up with something that's too bold, too heavy, too high in ABV.
Well, I mean, we've got uh, in what we call our red infusion line, we have the Nefasto, the liquid, and the nasty. The Nefasto and the nasty being the Connecticut broadleaf Maduro. So that changes the flavor, makes it a little more richer, but it still follows the same idea. When you get to the Rome, it's our purple infusion. It's a little gentler, much more floral. And then when you get down to the Blondie, the blue, I think, which is Nick's wife's favorite, is you're actually getting, that to me is old fashioned. It's sweet tip. It's got a lot of aromatics. Like if it's a really well made, well balanced old fashioned, where you're getting all the stuff from the whiskey and the bitters, and you're getting the sweetness. That nice balance. That kind of like emulates that flavor. But dude, listen, your palate is so respected by me. And I love the fact that you love Drew Estate. I mean and that my boy Rob Amato introduced me to you and that incredible gang out in Vegas. So shout out to JR if he's watching. Shout out to Mike Priz out there and everybody else. Nick Tally Mendoza that don't watch this show, but no matter what, I'm still going to his happy hour because it's the best spot. You can get 50% off of the steak.
Yeah.
And so that's the best deal in the world, the best deal in the world. And we're so happy he's opening up and trying to stay well in this tough time. So Max, hang around there because we got some questions coming up. Listen, I've got to introduce somebody, that's coming to us live from Chicago. This guy is a spirit educator extraordinaire. He's an amazing mixologist in his own right. He's always experimenting with different flavors, but more importantly than that, he's entertaining as fuck. So without further ado, Mr. Carlos Cuarta, welcome to Sticks and Sips, my brother.
Hey, Fran, thank you again. Good to see this panel. I got a new friends like Joy, but I have old friends like Joaquin. We never hang out as much as we should, but we see each other really often. I believe that the last time when I went to his place, it was with the 24 from Chicago, 24 bartender for 24 hours with a destination, without luggage and no sleeping, okay? And it was like a 24 hours to destroy the city. Of course, we also had some food, but that was a great one. And of course, we cross paths in our missing Tale of the Cocktail every year. Like what I can say about Joaquin, you just say everything. He came from the homeland of the Sumir. Sumir, right? Sumir is the sugarcane spirit from his land. And what about my friend here, Rosa Mato? Last time we were having a succulent dinner, Papa. Do you remember that? La Carreta in Miami last year.
So for those of you guys that don't know, that aren't from Miami, that Joaquin is blushing because you mentioned La Carreta and he's having flashbacks right now. But it's kind of like the quintessential Cuban spot you got to go. And Carlos, last time he was here, Rob happened to be in town, so we all met together and we had that, because he's from Chicago, he gets quasi Cuban. And Rob's from Vegas. He gets fake Cuban. So it's like, okay, we're gonna go to the, like what JD likes to call the Mecca and the Medina. We're going to La Carreta, which translates to the cart, and this is where you go get your Cuban staple. It's not the finest dining in the world, but
it's good home cooking. Hey, it's just good home cooking.
I had the best definition. Okay, you go to Miami and you go to La Carreta, it's the same thing that when you come to Chicago, you have to have a Malort, period. Right, Joey? Say yes.
Love it. I love Malort now. I'm the biggest fan.
I don't like that metaphor or analogy, and I'll ask the English guy, Joaquin, is that a metaphor or an analogy?
Well, he used like as or then, so it's a metaphor, but
thank you.
Oh, no.
So I had to ask it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Carlos, I dislike that metaphor completely because Malort, friends don't let friends do Malort. So I don't care if you're from Chicago.
Fran. Stop, bro.
No, that's like, look, I'm gonna give you a better metaphor. It's like going to Chicago and having a hot dog. That's a better one.
Malort is everything.
You're not putting Malort on a hot dog, Carlos. So just don't do this.
Find your way. And Max, last time I think that we met in Miami, but we crossed paths in different cities. I remember that when we met, you were working for a chef.
Emerald.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like the only person here that we don't have the opportunity, but it will come to have a few sips or here and there or something is Joy. But with everybody, including Max, wow, we have a really good time. The few times that we get together. By the way, Joy, how much do you like the añejo?
Oh yeah, so yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate the motto. It's not what I was expecting at all from an añejo. It was more Scotch-like. It was more aggressive than like a traditional añejo, which is like that butterscotch, that warm well-rounded stuff you get from añejo tequilas and mezcals. This one had a little bit more spice and fire on it, so it actually moved towards that peaty Scotch almost in a way, which was really nice. It was unexpected, but it's delicious.
I think that part of the cask that they use is the Mexican brandy cask, which is American oak. Yes.
Yeah, they use the old Allied Domecq stuff.
Yeah, no, it's a good stuff. And I agree with Joaquin about the easy 1, 2, 3 drink. If you stop in any of those McDonald's or whatever, you got your Whopper. The easy drink to me has to be something like that. That is from my childhood, and it's exactly what I'm drinking right now. That's it. Simple.
Nice.
Yeah, listen. Here's a shout out to Marita Leonard, who was actually the one that was calling me, and she's working. I'm going to snap a picture. So anyway, hey guys, say hi.
Hey.
And I'm gonna send this because she works for Campari, and Campari's got Campari and Chinar as well. So so she's a great person to know. And what's the piney one, man? Braulio. Because if you haven't had Braulio,
my it's going down. It's going down.
So, Carlos, I'm going to ask you a question. Same question I asked in a slightly different way. I know you love cigars. You like a certain type of cigars. You like the norteño. You love the pappy, and you've got a certain flavor profile that you lean towards when you're having cigars. But what is it that you like to drink? You yourself, when you're thinking about this and thinking about pairings and thinking about how the alcohol and the cocktail and everything starts to play around with the flavors on your palate.
Yeah, I mean, like, are you asking me is about the creation or my personal taste?
Well, let's go to your personal taste, man, because this is a personal show here. We're revealing a little bit of our soul, with everybody. So, what about your personal taste?
Well, you know that I am a big fan of the San Andres wrapper and the Brazilian wrapper, which is a little bit peppery, okay, a little bit spicy, and a little bit of manure, let's put it that way. Those kind of things, When I think about something like that, I like to go simple. As I always say, old-fashioned to me is not a cocktail, it's the liquid definition of a cocktail, right? And if I feel that I want to go bourbon, I will play a little bit with the bitters or the sugar, the same thing with the rum. Or if I want to go gin, or if I want to use any other spirit that is not the traditional spirit that people know use for old-fashioned, that again, this is a definition, a liquid definition. Bitter is something amazing, because when you play with bitter, and let's put like thinking about the cigar, because we're talking about like the drop of sauce to your soup, in this case to the cocktail. Boom. Let's put it this way: it's I will have something like what is one of your cigars? I will think about the name right now. And I want to have a tequila, repo or añejo, and talking about the Bittercube, I will use the Corazon Bittercube bitters for a tequila, repo or añejo. And I will play with the sugars. You know me, I can have a mix of sugar. But again, that's thinking about that type of cigar. Nica Rustica. With that, go amazing. And Nica, the same way, it's like you have in my norteño, it's like Nica go really good with a lot of things around. I don't know if that answers your question, but and on the other hand, I am a bitter guys. This mix, I'm drinking Chinar and orange juice, and I was 15-year old. I was not allowed at home to have any spirits. Hey, but I was allowed to have a Chinar with orange juice, which I love. My friend called me crazy, saying, "How you can drink that tastes like medicine?" I love it. We like the cheers.
Better than huffing a bag, but but anyway, but that's an amazing thing because that really crafts your palate, right? The things that the taste from your youth, that becomes part of who you are. So listen, I'm gonna take a small break here, and because National Rum Day is coming up on Sunday, I'm gonna take a little pour. I've got some Hamilton Jamaican pot stilled rum, so I'm gonna take a little pour. So if you've got some rum around the house anywhere there,
Yeah, because we
guys that
drank all the Smith and Cross.
yes, well, by the way, we are personally responsible for. I want to share this with the entire world. The biggest, depletions of Smith and Cross are definitely in South Florida.
And they're definitely here in our office.
Yeah, and it's all right here because I guarantee you we've depleted more Smith and Cross than even pouring ribbons in any 6-month period.
Yeah,
So
100%. Not even close.
Because he's only using them on the mint julep as a floater, as he taught me correctly. And as I told Joey, this will change your life because of the beautiful.
That was the first time I had it. And then once we started drinking it neat, it was like, oh, that's it.
And it's a little high proof, but we love the funk, and for National Rum Day, I'm gonna sip a little bit and say salud. I know my boy Carlos has got a bottle of Diplomatico there from his homeland of Venezuela, which I love.
I got something here. Like, may I?
Of course.
It's right here. You see, I'm still here.
And by the way, cheers to Gabriel. Pierre Ferrand guy. Help me out. Alexander Gabriel, right? Because it's impossible for me to remember 2 first names. So it's his birthday. So for all the wonderful things Pierre Ferrand and Plantation Rum does, salute to what was his name again? Alexander Gabriel. Diplomatico, is that batch 1 or 2?
This is the distillery collection, the batch kettle. The batch kettle.
Batch kettle 1, yes, wonderful.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Salute.
So I will say salute to all you guys, and listen, don't go anywhere. Rob, man, listen, brother, we talk pairings all the time, man. So give me your 2 cents.
I don't know if I have 2 cents. I might have 1 cent for you.
You're gonna change back.
Can I get a nickel?
Can I get a lotto ticket? Pairings are really interesting. I'm always one to do contrasted pairings because I like that difference of flavor. Where I know you're more on the side of complementing pairings a lot of times, and from what Max said,
to be clear, I've learned a lot from all of you guys, and so what I've tried to distill down the concept of trying to pair a cocktail or a drink with a cigar is the concept of reinforcement or contrast, and you can find the complement through either manner, and so that's kind of where I live. Does something reinforce or does something contrast, but both can provide that complement, and we've worked a lot with that previously as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my favorite, and it's an odd thing, but Max said it, is bubbles, champagne. That's one of my favorites to pair with. Next up is definitely rum. And for an acid, I think, acids tend to be a little bit on the sweeter side. If you're looking at like the Blue Label Cuba or a Plush on the purple, and it cuts through some of that sweetness and then lets your palate reset.
Yeah, sweet is such a great manner to get your palate reset. We're going back to, you were on the episode with me when we made the Joaquin White Claw, and the idea of a tall drink with bubbles is perfect for a cigar guy, especially when they're sitting with a very long smoke. Brings down the ABV. It gets the bubbles to refresh the palate and lets you keep your enjoyment going. So
yeah, and especially when you're sitting somewhere for an hour at the very least to 2 hours. You know, you don't want to be slamming old fashions. I mean, you can, but you don't want to be slamming old fashions and then, you know, stumbling out the door.
Right. Well, I certainly took offense to the whole thing of like, well, you can't make a punch out of an old fashioned. Like, I fervently reserve my right to disagree. You know, but I can't wait to have a daiquiri and in a blondie with Joaquin, because that's, you know, Max's suggestion was amazing. So with that, man, you know, and I love Joaquin's daiquiris. Ain't nobody's better, you know. And I know I live in the same neighborhood that Julio Cabrera's at, and I fully respect it. But Joaquin, your daiquiris are phenomenal, as are Julio's.
Julio, if you won't.
As are Julio's. They're phenomenal. Joey, man, listen, you know, we've had this great episode talking about acid, talking about pairings, talking about these guys that are really that I respect. What are your thoughts? Because I know you are well seasoned in the liquor world. I'm not going to really explain what that means. But
yeah, I mean, look, with this particular collection of acid that's in front of you, the Loud Pack, it's a wild assortment of, it's not all the big heavy hitters in the brand like the Cuba Cuba, you know, that everybody knows. Yeah, we have Blondie in there, which is a big, you know, the big one that so many people enjoy. The rest are that place where, just like everybody in this on this panel, the mixologist world, where we really just got to play and have fun just with these different aromas and tastes and the combinations of tobacco with botanical ingredients or herbal ingredients and how they mesh together. So within acid, it's a pairing itself of very different things. And it goes, that process goes back thousands of years to the indigenous cultures of, you know, the old, it's really an old world, but the new world to the Europeans. So within each of them, and then playing with the sweetness. Not all of the cigars in this collection are sweet. So it's more traditional leaning, but yet there's aromatics there. So that when you're doing a pairing, maybe you're going to do with the ones that aren't so sweet, you're going to add a sweeter drink to bring that to the table. And then if you use two aromatic, you know, an aromatic drink and an aromatic cigar together, they just kind of, it just brings it further up, you know, just booms on you like crazy, which is really great. But I really loved, it's something I've never done. I've never been a big bubbly champagne type of guy, but I could see, you can process it in your mind how it would work and how, I mean, I've always gone to like a gin and tonic for acid. You know, you get that effervescence, you know, that cleanses the palate, that little bit of bitterness, you know, that kind of evens out the sweetness. And that's really where that world of pairings really, when you get it right, you get it right. And you know, you're like, this is really enjoyable. And again, it's about, for me, it's always about slowing things down and enjoying the drink, enjoying a cigar, solo or together. That's really about the whole thing. It's slowing it down, really enjoy it, and not trying to analyze it the way we are. You know, we analyze the flavors and the why behind the, you know, the complement or the contrast. But at the end of the day, you just got to sit back and enjoy them for what they are. And again, to Joaquin's point, it's the moment in time that's so important. You know, that gets discounted a lot of times. Like, hey, this is the moment where I'm just kicking back now to enjoy this. You know, that's everything.
Well, listen, it's coming from our longest and most valued employee at Drew Estate.
I don't know about value.
All right. So longest employed guy. All right. So I leave it to the Vegas guys to recommend the bubbles. Joaquin, if we were going to have bubbles with a cigar, call the bubble, man. Because we know the Vegas guys are like, yeah, the most expensive shit and run it on the credit card. But Joaquin, you are my bubbles, man. Call the bubbles, man. So our people can go out and get them. Don't pick some eclectic shit no one can find, you know.
No. Let's not get crazy. I would say the key word here would be cremant. So maybe like a cremant de jura would be really nice. You're gonna get a little biscuity notes in there. Maybe you're gonna get some nice orchard fruit. You're gonna get a lot of acidity. That's going to come in at a reasonable price point. So maybe you can splurge on the cigar, but not go too crazy on the bubbly. If you want to stick with champagne, there's really nothing ever wrong with non-vintage Paul Roger. which is for the quality of it, I think is a pretty exceptional value. And that's pretty readily available. But I think like a nice Cremant de Jura, if you're, not looking to blow the bank, and if you're feeling a little spendier, or if it's a more special occasion, like a Port Roger non-vintage would be really lovely, kind of straight ahead pairing.
Max, money no object. What are we drinking?
Yeah, what vintage are we talking about?
Oh, geez. All right, I'm moving on.
Wait, don't let him
I'm
go
moving
on.
on. The Vegas guy's gonna call out whatever he orders at Spearmint Rhino every time he goes in there. So
We got to get to the questions.
all right, so Joey, we had Mezcal Minute with Don Amato. Hit it. So listen, I got to get to the questions. So Dennis Oddens, where can you find the cocktail cedar? Never heard of these before. Bittercube.com. So bittercube.com. You can get your cocktail cedars. These things are going to be fantastic. And you'll also be able to get these bitters because I do believe that they're available online for you to order. I don't know about the liqueurs because they can't ship everywhere, but at least the bitters you can as a food product. So bittercube.com. So congratulations, Sal de Armeda. What different kinds of wood can we use to smoke the glass? And I'm gonna throw that to Carlos. Carlos, you like smoked cocktails?
Oh, yes. My first one is mesquite. Mesquite.
All right. Anybody else on the panel? Different opinion.
Apple too. Apple is amazing.
Applewood for sure.
Applewood, love it.
I like
Alder Applewood.
Applewood.
I like
Joaquin?
Alderwood. Alderwood, ALDER. It's slightly lighter, so it's an easier one to control. Alder is not as heavy a smoke as like a mesquite or a hickory, so it's easier to keep it dialed in.
I like to use used Drew Estate cigar boxes. So Sal, congratulations. I'm trying to be eco-friendly here, people.
Frank, may I have a moment because I have to say something. Next time when I will find myself in Miami and I will be with you and we will go to La Trova because that's always where we end up. I will ask Julio, could you please make me a daiquiri, your amazing daiquiri with Joaquin Simo touch? Can you agree that?
I've actually been to Cafe La Trova with Joaquin, had the honor of being there, and Joaquin, of course, had to order a daiquiri from the master Julio, and we all enjoyed them, and they were wonderful.
Okay, I have a question for Max because I have a champagne here, and I would like to hear his opinion about the pairing of the champagne.
What is it? My
Yes.
I believe that pairs with every cigar ever made.
Yeah.
What I should do?
Yeah.
It's it's a champagne of beers, and what better way to enjoy the
Bubbles. It's still bubbles, right?
still bubbles,
Yeah,
still
yes, for
bubbles. So let me do the next question. Jules, for a part, what tequila would you recommend for a non-infused or for an infused cigar? And Joey, I'm gonna throw you which one you want, infused or non-infused tequila. Think about it.
I'll do non-infused. A lot of the cigars that I smoke, the Herrera Habano really pairs well with tequila. I'm a fan of some of the old stalwarts that are out there. The Don Julio is really, it's always just solid. I mean, you can't discount really good, solid product. There's a lot of new guys in town playing around, and that's great. You always want some new blood to the game, but I really like a Don Julio Reposado with a Herrera Habano. I think that's just wonderful.
Max, since you were talking about the infused, what tequila do you think you would pair with an infused?
I mean, there's so many possibilities. If we're gonna go with a major brand, if we're talking to the audience that pretty much is obtainable anywhere, I've always been a fan of Casa Noble, and I would probably go with maybe the Repo. And it's hard because not everyone is going to pair up as equally, obviously, with the infused line. But if you want kind of like a middle of the ballpark or middle of the road tequila, I'd go with Casa Noble, Reposado. There's so many actually I could recommend, but Casa Noble for sure is definitely one of my favorites. Don Julio's always been a standard, and people knock it all the time because it's so big, but Patron's always a great brand. And unless if you haven't been there, you can kick it around all day long, but once you go there, you realize that it is quality stuff.
Unbelievable, that operation.
Love Patron.
Yep.
So thank you. So next question, we have Theron Ballsbaugh. How was bitters invented and or thought of, and when? And that one, I'm going to throw to my boy Joaquin. Tell us the story of bitters. You've got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay. Bitters started off as grandma medicine. The old Mary Poppins line, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. That's basically what bitters are. It is all these roots and barks and leaves and spices all combined. And then, if you're going to make it into a potable bitter like an Amaro, you're going to add more sugar. If you're going to leave it as a standalone bitter, like an Angostura or a Peychaud, then you would simply add a bittering agent to it, usually at the end. But they're basically the salt and pepper of cocktails. If you've ever, as we're looking at the Bittercube line over there, you can tell it's not just salt and pepper. There's also cumin and coriander. There's also harissa. There's also za'atar. So it really goes through it. So just think of bitters, especially the aromatic kind, as your spice cabinet for cocktails. And then when you're thinking about the potable ones, like a Campari, like a Cynar, like a Underberg, stuff like that, those are lengthened a little bit more. They have a little bit more sweetness, even though some of them might fool you. But they basically all started off as like whatever the local medicinal plants were. They were a stabilized extraction of those, and that's why bitters labels in the early days had lots and lots of claims as to what they would cure. Everything from baldness, stomach aches to
the digestif, as they used to always call them.
Yep.
And Joaquin's right. I actually have unopened bottles from the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the stuff that these claims or that these companies claim on their labels would not fly these days. I'll tell you that much right now.
Well, thank God that TTB wasn't around back then. But Joaquin, you did an amazing job of running us through what bitters are and their role and their history. And as we know, we use them today as a flavoring agent to round out the palate and bring balance to cocktails. And that's the beauty of them.
When we think about balancing drinks, there's sugar on one side and sour on the other, right? You have sweet and sour on one side, but if you have bitter up here, the thing that balances bitter out is actually salt. So if something is too bitter, then adding a little bit of salt to it is actually going to quell some of that bitterness. So if Campari is a little bitter for you, throw a few grains of salt into it, and that's going to cut down a little bit on the bitter, and maybe you can start to get some of those fruit and herbal notes out of it. But if something is too bitter, salt is usually the cure for it. It's why you like salt bitter greens like collards and kale. And that works in cocktails too. You could do a saline solution or just like a few grains of salt.
Does that work for personalities as well?
Sadly not. No.
All right. So listen,
I call them salty.
Yeah. Frank, a kick in the ass is usually the counterpart for a bitter.
Anyway, listen. Last question was, what is the best combo for a Rome cigar? And I think Max alluded to it, but I really love this Arkermes highball. It's such a great compliment, and having made it here along with Nick from Bittercube and trying it, I think it's just a great compliment. Anytime that you can,
what would be another version of that? Maybe using some different ingredient that's more accessible.
I would try the Cynar in a highball, but I think and Joaquin, Max, and Rob. We've got to balance that out a little bit because Cynar's got that heavy bitter. So I think we would need to add a little bit more sweetening agent and then add something else to kind of round it out.
I would also recommend, if you want to go a little less bitter, but still stay in the aperitif cocktail family, maybe something like Suze and tonic. And you can even pair it up with like, maybe even going with like a fever tree elderflower just to pair up with the florality of the rome itself.
Yep.
And I would probably go, 1 part Suze to 2 parts tonic, and then maybe an orange swath as well to add a little more aromatic and complexity as well. But like I said, there's no just one right answer. There's a lot of possibilities, especially with the flavored line. But that is something that also comes to mind if I'm going to do a cocktail pairing with a rome.
Yeah, also Bonal or Bonal.
Yeah, fantastic and tonic.
And maybe
100%.
even Montenegro, which has a lot of floral notes too, or Maletti, which is a little softer, a little sweeter.
Yeah, I like the No Nino. That one I like. It's so drinkable and flavorful, but again, it's not that intensely bitter. It's a well balanced Amaro. It's easy, and I think that really would work as well.
And I think the idea there is to get it in a tall drink, keep the effervescence going. That the rome is a big cigar, and you got to keep that in mind. So you want to knock down your ABV, keep that palate refreshed, and maybe you can have 2 of these as you're going through. So
also, Frank, big ice, so slower rate of dilution as well.
Right. So we'll get a spear in there to help slow down that dilution. Absolutely right. Ice is important, but we won't go there because you guys are douches. Anyway, so
every one of us.
I is another ingredient, okay?
There we go. Yeah. He's going into the frozen tundra of Chicago to carve out his ice for his out of the lake for his old fashions. But listen, I'm about ready to sign off. I've kept you guys going, and what I want to do is, last call. This is our, this is our moment where everyone needs our support, and I ask you guys to, listen, support your local brick and mortar shops. Support your hospitality folks out there that these wonderful people represent. You can go ahead and support the USBG National Charity, trying to help out our hospitality people, because they take care of us, and now is our turn to take care of them as best as we can. So keep them in mind as we're going through COVID. I want to thank my special guest, Nick Kosevich from Bittercube and Heirloom Liqueurs. Honored to have him on. The beautiful panel that I've had on, Joaquin, Max, Carlos, Rob, my boy Joey, Drew, always hanging on, the entire marketing team at Drew Estate, everybody out there from sales to warehouse to the factory in Nicaragua, to the executive team, bringing you this show. Puts me on the air every Wednesday night for an hour, and which now have stretched into an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm doing a wonderful job of cramming all that in. And
you didn't even have to take a bathroom break either.
No, dude, good. No, it's coming. I need to go in a second. So make sure you make sure you follow us, Drew Estate Cigar. You can follow me on Instagram, Frankie_drinks. Do what you need to do. A couple of announcements. Happy birthday, Tom Clune from Vintage Cigars. Jackson, our boy Jackson Moscoso from DE's having a birthday. Alexander Gabriel, as we said, and we had a little rum toast to him. And, listen, I would be amiss not to mention Dave Pickerel because he was such a huge figure in the whiskey world, and we do miss him greatly. So with that, my last announcement before I close the bar, listen, next week I've got Richard Patterson, the nose from the Dalmore. Don't shake your head, Max.
No, I hope you have 5 hours set aside is all.
I've slotted him in for 10 minutes. So I got Richard Patterson and Jeff Borshwitz, guys that can really talk, from Corona Cigar in Florida FSG. I'm super excited. So I want to thank all you guys for joining me, everybody tuning in Facebook land, for the crew that's hanging in Zoom. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. But I'm about to sign off with a very sexy teaser video. If you don't know what the Loud Pack is, it's coming to your neighborhood. Be nice and loud like DE does. And with that, good night from Sticks and Sips. I got my freaking card here from Global
Sticks.
Creative, Sips and Sticks, just so I remember the name. With that, good night, everybody. Thank you, Jack. You were.
Yo, look, I ain't saying that I'm rich, cause if I'm honest, I've never been. But when I look at all these other kids, I feel just a little bit ahead of them. You should know the business is competitive. There's a lot of people that I'm better than. Even veterans ain't got the knowledge I do. I've been reinvesting all I ever spent. Stop pretending like you poppin'. Who been out here making profit? Told my mama that I got this. I wonder if she noticed what my job is. I don't know how I'ma make it, but I know no matter what, I'm finna find a way.